President met today with 20 African-American pastors and faith leaders behind closed doors at the White House.
This is Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year. Just so everybody's up to speed, Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, isn't just flippantly dismissed as Worst Journalist of the Year because he might as well be the Worst Journalist of the Year. He is the Worst Journalist of the Year, literally, because when, in 2014, the Columbia Journalism Review, a liberal organization, looked around at journalists and thought, which one of these bitches sucks the most? They immediately turned to Fail Paragon, CNN's most fail-tacular slopagandist, Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, and bestowed upon his losing head the permanent and immortal crown of Worst Journalist of the Year. So, in summary, though it is a part of my brand, Worst Journalist of the Year is by no means a childish ad hominem kitty slap of my own invention, but instead the never more deserved, rigorously analyzed, unironically awarded mantle for real given to Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, for being so catastrophically bad at anything within 100 light years of the Venn diagram of journalism truth and not-sucking white penises that a professional organization of elite trade professionals looked at him and then looked at Alex Jones ripping off his shirt and beer-bonging muscle milk pills and said, No. The stupid one. In fact, Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, is more or less why I started this channel in the first place. He was gobbling the lying dong of Moloch so vigorously that I felt further inaction on my part would be the moral equivalent of knowing your local congresswoman was recruiting terrorists with a side of brother f***ing and not doing anything about it. Wait, what? The infamous exchange that finally got me off my normie ass, David Clark painting the CNN studio with Don Lemon's fear poop now nearly 3 years ago, was, from that moment all the way till the moment I first saw this video, what I was certain was the single most pathetic display of quote-unquote journalism ever broadcast on television. Ladies and gentlemen, and yes, I just assumed your genders, be aware that tard mining for shits and gigs will always be at the mercy of an ever-increasing drug tolerance. We are not casual consumers of leftist fails so much as we are terminally addicted to chasing the dragon. Only our medicine is a spoonful of schadenfreude at liberals' expense, and this is because we aren't so much better people, but more bigger assholes who are considerably smarter. For this reason, I suspect you, like me, find yourself struggling to find liberal transgressions extreme enough to reach that familiar, sublime release of pure ataraxy. And with minor stupidities now blown out of proportion for the sake of cheap clicks, while major stupidities are cuck-nuked 3 weeks in advance, everything is so overhyped and oversaturated that, like the words Nazi and racist, the very act itself of mocking liberals has lost all meaning. But then, in stumbles Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, bleeding from freshly pierced ear and I assume probably anus, sloshing around a frosty Zima and screaming for someone to hold her beer. Unfortunately, half refused just on the general principle, yeah, that's not beer. And the other half refused because it turns out you actually can get herpes from a toilet seat. But if Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, has proven one thing, it's that he truly and completely does not care about utterly embarrassing himself on national television. Thus, with a quick thank you to his weird, paradoxical, indomitable will to lose, we can bear witness to what will be, surely must be, because please God no, it can't get worse, will be remembered as the greatest propaganda fail of all time.
Joining me now, one of those pastors, Reverend Bill Owens, is the founder and president of the Coalition of African American Pastors. Pastor, thank you so much for joining us. Good evening to you.
This is Reverend Bill Owens. He is such a badass genius that even the middle hairs of his mustache are too scared of his words to grow so close to his mouth. Kidding aside, Bill Owens is exactly the kind of black American man that CNN cannot tolerate. Calm, confident, more clever than Don Lemon will ever realize in this video, articulate, to the point, and most important of all, totally devoid of ego or the need for personal recognition. Reverend Bill Owens has agreed to risk the caustic, burning plastic fumes of the dumpster fire that is CNN to draw attention to the selfless initiative he and other community leaders have taken to finally begin the bizarre and alien process of actually fixing the problems in American culture. Throughout this video, you will begin to understand that Reverend Bill Owens isn't stupid or hard of hearing or being intentionally obtuse. He is, in fact, gently guiding Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, from the precarious lip of the cliff of eternal self-boo-foo. And 100% true to form, Democrat Don Lemon totally misreads Owens' responses as stupid because he's stupid and pushes harder and harder and more obviously for the soundbite the good Reverend always knew he wanted in the first place. But because Don Lemon is both with near certainty mentally disabled and with total certainty a fucking retard, he will, through a never-to-be-seen-again mix of specific failure and general inability to perform any function in any way whatsoever, finally, by accident, expose himself beyond repair as the incompetent dancing mouthpiece of racist white liberals. So, one more time, I want to be clear here. This is as good as it's gonna get, and it's never gonna get this good again.
What did the president say about his attacks against these leaders of color, and did any of the faith leaders raise concerns about that?
Well, I think something was said in passing. I don't tune in to negative talk from any side. So some things were mentioned, and I took the position that we as black pastors should go down to Baltimore and see what we can do to help. I'm not going to criticize if there's a need, because I was born poor. When I was up until I was 8 years old, I lived in a two-room house, no water, no lights, a pot-belly stove in the middle of the kitchen, and until I was 8 years old.
But Pastor,
so
listen, we have a delay, so pardon me for that. So I just want to, just for the sake of time, and I don't mean to cut you off here. The question was, what did the president?
Sure.
The question was, what did the president say about his attacks against those leaders of color, and did any of the faith leaders raise concerns about that?
This is what your face looks like when you're thinking about whipping the moneylenders. Also, I want to quickly point out that the Chiron, if you haven't noticed, currently reads POTUS meets with African American faith leaders. You don't need to worry about why I'm pointing this out just yet, but if you really want a clue,
I don't remember him saying anything about colored leaders, leaders that are colored. There were some things discussed, said, but I don't remember him referring to leaders of color.
Did anybody there raise concerns about what he has been saying lately about people like Elijah Cummings or anyone?
Well, that was not the purpose of the meeting today. Today the meeting was, how can we help the black community? That is my concern. That was the purpose of the meeting. That is the reason I came to Washington, and that is my focus, helping our inner city young people, especially our children, our young people.
So the president tweeted today that he was looking
holy shit,
forward to his meeting with wonderful inner city pastors. Any concern for you that the president used this meeting with black leaders to insulate himself from that criticism?
I don't think so. I don't think that at all, because I've been to the White House 4 times in 5 months. So it was nothing about insulating him from anything. He wanted to hear from us what our concerns were and what he could do to help us.
So, Pastor, you've said some controversial things. In 2012, you equated President Obama's support of same-sex marriage to supporting child molestation. You later walked that back. But that in itself is an outrageous statement. Why should anyone take you seriously?
Just totally skipping over the cosmic meta punch Don Lemon just thrust into his own face, and possibly to shoot, by actually uttering the statement, why would anyone take you seriously? It doesn't take an autist to point out that this interview just took a mildly noticeable Tokyo drift from, come on man, say Trump is racist, to, well, why the f would anyone listen to a piece of shit like you? I here might remind you of 2 key reality anchors meant to be considered when engaging content this dangerously moronic. 1, this is Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, and 2, that says CNN.
I've never said that. I've never said that. I have never said that.
Did you catch it?
I've never said that. I've never said that. I have never. I had a difference with Obama about same-sex marriage. I've never mentioned a child about President Obama. Never, never, never. If I did, find it. I've never said that.
And this is a quote. Okay, if you watch the men who have been caught having sex with little boys.
Skip.
The only thing I disagree with President Obama on was same-sex marriage. That's the only thing. Then the reporters tried to get me to go into other avenues, and I would not do it because I felt same-sex marriage was ungodly. And I took that position then, I take it now.
So, I know it's hard for you. You think it's hard.
Guys. You think it's hard?
To believe that Trump is racist, but he's repeatedly used racially charged language. He consistently attacks black and brown elected leaders. So,
I find it kind of poetic that at the critical moment, Don Lemon begins to excrete the biggest mouth poop in the observable universe. His subconscious forms his front hole to look like a back hole. It's almost like the universe itself intervened from a higher dimension, as if to say, well, if all you're going to use it for is butt stuff. And yet still more astounding is that even if you're the most godless of atheists, you can still see in this exquisite face anus the evolutionary effect of form follows function in real time.
Why is that hard to believe, Pastor?
Well, I find President Trump leaders of all colors. He attacks who he will. He's his own man, and I can't dictate what he should or should not do, but he does not just attack black people. He attacks anybody, and you know it.
This guy, so much sack. He protect, he attack.
So as a man of faith, as a Christian, you're saying he attacks anyone. It sounds like you're condoning attacks. Is that Christianly or?
You ever see a wife beater right after his wife calls him a wife beater? You see, at the heart of every propagandist is a leftist, and at the heart of every leftist is an abusive coward bully. Far before they will ever work up the stones to fight on equal terms, they will writhe and flop about and seek to exploit any and all cracks in your resolve and self-reliance. What Don Lemon is doing is the human equivalent of animal camouflage. Like a flamboyantly bounding doe, he is flashing his tail as a distraction, and like a dust-bellied reptile, he is trying to make himself invisible against the backdrop of whataboutism. Too often forgotten is that this is the behavior of prey, not a predator, an exercise in weakness rather than strength, and an accidental admission of at least some level of awareness that he was granted the gift of existence, only to serve as a warning sign for the true depths of uselessness one can attain if one really puts one's mind to it.
I'm just stating a statement of fact. I'm not condoning anything. I'm stating a statement of fact. President Trump does not pick the people he attacks because of color. He attacks anybody he feels needed.
And is that okay with you?
Well, I'm not his judge, but I've been attacked. Let me tell you something. Let me give you a little background. I was in seminary, and I started recruiting students for this university. And I got criticism from my leaders, from many ministers. Why are you down at that white man's school? So I'm used to criticism. I couldn't believe it. We started out with 3 students and put 400 students in a university, inner city students, that this ministry, CAAP, was born out of, which was Give Me a Chance ministry, asking the university to give these students a chance to go to college.
So,
students
Pastor,
who had no
listen,
idea they could even go to college.
I appreciate your...
We interrupt this heartwarming success story to remind you that you're a piece of shit because you won't lie and say Donald Trump is racist.
I appreciate you giving me your biography. I do, but for the sake of time, because I don't have a lot of time with you, I have a lot of show ahead. What does that have to do with this president?
Okay, then. I was criticized then, and I'm criticized now, directly or indirectly, for meeting with the president. What I'm trying to say is I do what I can to help our young people, wherever that is, however that is. And I have an agenda to help our black young people and poor people of any color throughout this country. I've done it, and I'm going to do it again. And I will work with the president on that agenda.
Did you work with President Barack Obama on that agenda?
I work with all presidents on that agenda, all presidents. I work with anybody that wants to help this country and help our inner city young people. I don't want them to have to go through what I went through to get where I am. Thank God I'm blessed. Starting from nothing on the other side of scratch, I have 3 university degrees. I thank God for that because God blessed me in this great country.
After enduring 7 minutes of absurdly transparent attempts by Worst Journalist of the Year, Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, to manufacture fake news, with every justification to get angry or annoyed or stand up and walk out, Reverend Bill Owens instead calmly, elegantly articulates what I too consider to be the driving force behind why we do what we do. It comes not from a place of moral superiority, but from hard lessons paid forward, and the renewed hope for redemption.
I'll work with anybody that wants to help this country. I don't want them to have to go through what I went through to get where I am. Thank God I'm blessed. I thank God for that because God blessed me in this great country.
That's it for today. If you enjoyed this content, please like, share, and subscribe, and if you'd like to see more of it, consider supporting this channel through monthly or one-time donations or by purchasing a shirt, mug, or the new Feels Good Man album, all of which can be done at johnwardcinematics.com. Thank you for watching. I'm John Ward, and until next time, remember, you're a world champion. Don't let your memes be dreams.
I'll give a rat's ass what the hell you think.
This guy is so much yang. This why is so much wang. This why no more yin. So much wang. Total win. Total win. Total win. Total